I really hate to break it to you, bud, they're not coming back, and they did not find the place that you want. Even empathy is the thing that we were looking for here this
The
whole
real
time.
to your eternity was the empathy we made along the way.
Hi, hello, this is Jules the Human here, and welcome to the Jules the Anime Hour. I'm one of your hosts, Jules the Human, and every week we go out into the world and watch a little bit of anime, and we come back here and talk about it. And today is our first time we're going to be talking about To Your Eternity, an anime that was picked from the chest. We have a ton of anime that we need to go through, some of them added by me, some of them added by Matt, and a ton of them added by you guys, the community. And all of you have put these in there. We have watched so many anime. This is only from season 2. We've already watched a ton more. This is ranked here S through F. We rank it at the end. Once we watch it, we tell you if it's good, whether it's worth it, whether we hated it, and then we pick a brand new one. And today's the very first time we're going to be talking about To Your Eternity, and I'm super excited. Hello, everybody in the live chat, either on Twitch or on YouTube. Hello, nice to see you. But I don't go on these anime journeys alone because I go with my co-host, Matt Galley. Matt, how are you doing this week?
I am doing so good. I definitely am not emotionally recovering from our viewing this week to any capacity. It's been, it's been good so far. I'm enjoying what the story as it's being told. I have a lot of thoughts. I want to get to that. I want to start talking about this one because it's definitely a bit of a unique cookie. I mean, we've dealt with things with heavy subject matter before
Sure.
to like good and positive effect of whether or not it's handled with taste. And I definitely think it's been an interesting viewing so far with this one because it's in these 4 episodes alone, there's a lot of concepts that it dives into, a lot of stuff that really kind of can transcend the medium itself and open doors for larger conversation. But I definitely want to stick to the scope of what the anime is putting forward as
Sure.
far as it being a a product of entertainment to be consumed.
Sure. Definitely not. We won't dive too deep into life and its meanings, I guess, but To Your Eternity was put into the chest, and a way that you can do that, put an anime into our chest here, is by giving a $5 super chat on YouTube or 500 bits on Twitch. That'll get your anime watched in the future. We have so many to go, and they get picked out at random. I gotta take To Your Eternity off of there because we're talking about it today. But you hadn't heard anything about this anime.
No, absolutely nothing.
I knew nothing, and I didn't want to watch a trailer because that's like part of the fun, right? This is sort of like just literally a grab bag of anime that is chosen by somebody, and we just watch it. And I think part of the fun now that we've been doing it so long is just to be like, let's just take it for what it's showing me. I don't want to have any expectations. I don't want to know what's happening. And I was definitely surprised because, I mean, with the name To Your Eternity, and I see some characters on the front, do you have some preconceived notions? I thought it was some sort of romance. I thought it was some sort of
Yeah.
love thing because they're gonna
Mhm.
love To Eternity or something like that. And I was like, okay, here we are. And we get what we get, and I'm just like, okay, here we are. Let's get into it. Let's talk about episode 1, To Your Eternity. What happens in episode 1, the last one?
Uh, Episode 1. A disembodied voice speaks on how they sent an orb down to Earth. The orb copied many forms, first being a rock, then a wounded wolf, and then as the wolf, it begins to wander aimlessly. The wolf finds a boy in a worn down village, and the boy speaks about how everybody else left to find paradise, and he was left behind to watch over the old. The boy decides to set out the same way everybody else left to find paradise. However, his hopes are crushed as he eventually catches up to the group that left before to discover that this is where their journey came to an end. He decides to turn back with his wolf companion. However, his health rapidly deteriorates due to a wound and exposure to the elements. With his dying breaths, he wishes that the wolf, being the orb, never forgets him. The orb transforms yet again, this time copying the boy, becoming a human. The orb sets out aimlessly yet again in search for stimulation to change form again.
Ooh boy, not in my wildest dreams could I expect what this story was gonna be.
Yeah.
Hello, Cosmo, Papa Jules, and Zaddy Galley, Dat Hair, Be Wild, Jules. Yeah, I don't know. It's getting long. I do need a haircut. It's just kind of wild. Goddamn, that's depressing. Yeah, this episode 1 just hit you in the feels. So first off, somebody's talking right at the beginning, an orb that they cast onto the earth, and whether I'm okay with them never. I'm pretty sure we're going to talk about like the stories, and this is going to be about the stories of the orb. And I'm okay with never knowing who it is because I can just be like, it's some god spiritual, and I'm fine with them setting it up that way for us to never find out who it is or for them to never come back. It's just usually in anime, I love it when they're like, this guy has a really hard head. Okay, cool, let's roll with it. They said this orb was cast onto Earth. Okay, tell me the story with it. So I like how it's just here we are, and this is what's happening. And then we
For
go,
me, it feels like it's very
yeah,
yes and improv is how
yes,
it feels. Like just go with the story, go with the flow. It's giving you the setup, and it's gonna let's see where it goes with it. Yeah, exactly.
yeah. And then it instantly just sends us to Rock and then to Dead Wolf. And I'm just like, oh, buddy, like this is it. Hello, Kaylin. Thank you for the 6 months. Appreciate it. 6 months on YouTube. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Um, we get a dead wolf. The orb took on the form of a wolf and became conscious. And the wolf meets a boy who we never get the name of, do we?
Nope.
We just get nameless lad here.
Mm-hmm.
If
We
anybody
get
in chat
the
wants to give
wolf's
him a
name
name,
because he's talking to the wolf, and the wolf's name is Joan, or at least
I thought
the
it was
old
Johan.
Johan. I was watching in. Were you watching in English?
For this episode, yes.
I was watching subtitled, so I was reading it as Joan. But if the English is Johan, then it was Johan. So we get Johan the wolf, who's actually an orb and is not the wolf, and then it's just like I feel like the boy would have like I don't like it's prime for a second. I thought it was definitely gonna go into um like the Thing route where this orb like all of a sudden is like assimilating people and becoming people and then like pretend like like I don't
Taking
know
over
where
their
it was
life.
going, but it
Sure.
was like but it I liked the direction that it went with where like the orb is just like this. It's a shapeshifter, but it doesn't have any malicious intent because I feel like many times in media when we get the concept of the shapeshifter, it's usually because it's trying to like hide its presence for nefarious purposes.
Sure. From what we know, the orb knows nothing. And it just knows that at the beginning, at least, it knows that it can change into something.
Yeah.
Or
But then
doesn't
we
even
get,
know that.
we I like how the show I didn't talk about it at all. Also, this like this recap of this episode is like a very brief explanation on what the show's trying to like really convey, but I can't express how like there's so much in the episode that makes it very dense and makes it feel like it wants you to just care about moment to moment what's going on, because you get the moments of like with the when the orb finally gets into the little hut, with the fire cracking and popping, and the narrator's like it doesn't know like why, but it finds this space alluring and it wants to be here. Like just
Mhm.
moments like that, I'm just like that's just such a great written sentence. I don't know, like it just hits me in a way where it's just like you forget how uh for me it's a reminder on like how there's a fly in here, sorry, it's distracting me, easy it is to just take the little things for granted, the little pleasantries and luxuries that we do get to exist with, but we just take for granted because they're just there, they're always present. But
Definitely.
here's like something that's of like a full oh my god, I'm sorry, a full grown being that's like experiencing all these stimuli for the first time. It's just a
Mhm.
very intriguing concept.
Cosmo says it's like they sucker punched you in your heart and didn't stop hitting you. Yes, definitely. So an orb like a circular light, like a little, like it's more like a pearl, like just a big pearl, and it just shapeshifts into a rock at first for I guess millennia, and then it a wolf dies on it, and then it shapeshifts into a wolf, and the orb is Ditto, definitely for sure.
Ditto dumper.
I do love that those moments where it's just like figuring out sort of life when they meet together, and we find out that his group of people have left. He has to stay behind and take care of the oldies that I put. I just put the oldies. Johan, they left 5 years ago, and my first initial, I knew it was going somewhere, and like you're saying, there's a lot of little things in this because he's constantly talking to Johan the
Yeah.
dog.
And that's
And
that's also, yeah, a good point, is that this whole first episode we largely just get this one kid talking to Johan, but like essentially like Johan's not saying anything back other than giving him like, glancing glares and stuff. So the kid is
but
just, for all intents and purposes, talking to himself.
but I definitely feel like there was a break at the end of the episode, but like I definitely feel when I kept hearing him talk to the dog, I'm like, oh boy, he's going crazy. Like he's gone crazy. Like he's just talking and he's looking like, tell me what you think. And he's like, oh yeah, whatever. And I'm like, oh, this is scary. Cause I mean, of course, I'm sure I would be the same way probably if I
Yeah.
haven't seen anybody in 5 years.
And it's like, in that type of a situation where you're just in a desolate tundra with nothing but you and your dog. Humans are social beings. We crave interaction with other people, and being in that isolated setting, it does drive people crazy. And that's again why I was saying The Thing. I felt like we were going that route with it, is because that movie is set in like a research lab in the middle of the Arctic. You have movies like Alien that are set on space stations out in space where no one can hear you scream. So it's just like, it's got that very desolate initial greeting, and I'm just like, where are we going with this? But then you get this super upbeat, plucky kid who is just super optimistic about everything really in this completely desolate situation. So like,
dangerously positive.
dangerously positive. So you want to root for him and you want to see him get through the situation, but it's like, as situations are even turned sour and he kind of has a lack for the reality aspect of it, immediately, I immediately go down the route of, something's gonna happen. Like he's not gonna make it, or I thought that's where he was gonna he just try to keep going and then die out there, but he decides to go back, and then I'm like, is that really like where we want to drive the plot, like back to where we started, for like, so to speak? But then it just,
Because you didn't think that they were going to kill him off in episode 1.
yes, in a way, but like, again, as all this stuff happens, like he falls in the river and he's like, oh, I'm so clumsy, and I'm like, he's about to freeze out there, he's wet in that like freezing cold weather, and then it shows the stab in his leg. I'm like, it's really just trying to
This
kind of like
compound
bring
it.
the energy out of the situation, but you see him keep trying to press through it with his positivity, and it's like, you want to believe in him, but it's just like, even the way the story has been presented thus far, it's like, we know the story's about the orb, so it's like, I'm convinced this guy's gonna die well before he dies, well before like he has like breaking point. So I'm not saying that makes it bad, but it's just like, I want this kid to make it out of the situation, but I know he's not, and so that's why it's just like, it's heartbreaking for me to see him be so upbeat through the situations that he gets presented with. It's like watching your Oregon Trail caravan start to
slowly
succumb to
die,
dysentery and stuff.
Yeah,
it's like, oh fuck, man.
Yeah, it's gonna end. It's
Yeah.
gonna happen. Cosmo asks how old his child. He's in maybe like 12, 13, maybe 15 at the most.
Yeah, maybe 15.
I would say. But yeah, some of that stuff where we get his hero's mortal wound with the leg thing, and he falls into the river, like you said. But some of the most emotional stuff is just like me thinking for him and being like, come on, man, you got to take it back a little bit, because he's just insanely positive. He's like, no worries, I'm going to do this. I'm going to continue. I'm gonna do this. And then the next thing happens, and he's like, it's fine. It's fine. We'll just go back. We'll try again later. And it's like, oh, come on, man. Like, you know it. I want you to admit it. I really hate to break it to you, bud, but they're not coming back, and they did not find the place that you want. Even with the little X over the arrow, and then him finding all of their thing where they most likely died. That was his group, and it's like, I just feel so sad for
Yeah.
him.
And when he's saying like we'll go back and we'll try again, I think that's him, like, you know, he's trying to stay positive, but I think it's him, like, kind of, it is him accepting defeat. Like, going back is the accepting defeat. And even though he's saying we'll try again, I think in the back of his mind he kind of knows that he's pushing himself to the limits, and that was the shot. Because, like he even said, if we stay here, we're gonna wither away just like the Hutts did.
So why not try?
Yeah. So he knows that there's nothing left, and even, like, you know, as he's there, like, they go through the last of the food and stuff, and he's like, "Oh, you're hungry? Like, I'm gonna make you some food," and he's like using the last dried fish that he has and stuff, and it's just like, you just come on, like, it's just heart crushing.
The music is insanely emotional throughout this whole thing.
So good.
It's crazy. And honestly, I was just really close. I was really close to just being like, fuck this. I'm crying here, you know? The kid ends up dying. He says, remember me. And Johan continues on and takes the form of him to never forget him. And the orb continues on and just walks out. And it's just like, as in episode 1, this is insane. It was a perfectly really great contained story with not a whole lot of elements, but a lot of emotion to it, to what they're showing you, because we didn't even get the guy's name, but we felt everything. We felt all of his emotions. We felt his hardships and his sort of toxic positivity, I guess. And we wanted more for him. And I think it was really good at pulling you in as an audience member. So episode 1, I didn't know where, like, the show was going to go from here, but it really set the stakes, one, and really showed us, like, okay, be prepared for an emotional ride, because here it is. We're going to take you there. And in episode 1, I feel confident that they're going to take me to somewhere where I'm going to feel things about people. Episode 2, we get into it. A rambunctious girl. What happens in episode 2?
Wandering in one direction and dying many times, the orb finds its way into a lush forest. Quickly then being mauled by a bear, the orb dies again. We meet March and her pseudo-older sister, Perona. Perona rushes March out of the village one day in an attempt to save her from a potential fate. The village is gathered up as all of the young girls are selected to be sacrificed to Oniguma, the god who brings peace. March throws a tantrum after being selected. However, her father asks her to behave, so she does. March escapes from the guards en route to the altar of sacrifice and meets the orb as it regenerates from another death. The guards flee in terror at the sight of this, and March finds herself intrigued following the orb. March attempts to teach it manners and later has a guilt nightmare about running away. And the next morning, she finds herself being followed by the orb, declaring that she is not its mommy. Not your mommy, you know?
So one thing, it instantly answers the question that I had in my head. He gained consciousness, so therefore he's a human, and he was a wolf, and he has a wound. Would he die like his predecessor before him? And how did he make it out of that tundra space? Well, he did. And they prefaced, they were like, he made it out. And I'm like, okay, like, what the fuck? Okay, that's crazy. And then they're like, well, he died 6 times. And then it shows like insane, like, gruesome deaths.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh,
yeah, because yeah, exactly. It's like, sure, so now we're done in the tundra and we want to move the story past that. We get him out of the tundra, sure, but narratively, how does that make sense if this kid's whole tribe and himself and his dog, because his dog ran away too and ended up getting wounded, how did all of them manage to not make it out and the orb did? Well, it's because the orb died. It did.
A bunch.
So if
the orb is immortal.
Yeah, if it wasn't immortal, it wouldn't have made it, but it is immortal, so it did. And each time it regenerated, it took a little less long as the last time.
So pain promotes growth. They did this whole explanation about it and how death is just a change of state for the orb, and it takes less time to change states back to being the boy again every single time. That's kind of crazy. So we get instantly like, okay, we have an immortal orb here going through life, figuring it out. And the seventh death was by this huge bear. It looks insane, gets mauled to death, and it's there. We get the intro song in this episode. Really
Which
dope
was the
intro song.
outro song in the last
Yeah,
episode as well. And yeah, it's real. I didn't skip it once.
it's pretty good.
This might be my favorite intro that we've
Ooh,
had on the show so far, for sure.
okay. Look up To Your Eternity intro anime or
It's so
something to check it
vibey,
out.
man.
It's pretty vibey. We meet March, who is the little girl. We get Perona, who is their babysitter, sort of, I guess.
Yeah.
They don't really say that they're
She just
connected at
says like
all.
thank you for always her parents, March's parents say thank you for always just looking after her.
Hmm.
And she's like, don't even worry about it.
Their village was chosen by the Yanome people. Oh no, well, the village was chosen, and the Yanome people will offer an untarnished girl to their god Oniguma. So they go through this whole explanation of how this is great. This is a great thing to keep us safe, and this is what they're doing. And our village got chosen, and it's all just really they spend a lot of time on this. Like, you are going to be sacrificed, little girl, and they spent a lot of
Yep.
time. I'm like,
Child
oh,
sacrifice, episode 2.
with this, with the blood, and I'm like, it's a little jarring because in this pretty story, there's like little scenes of just blood or death and just talk of these hard subjects. I'm like, ooh, this is kind of crazy. Hayase is the person that is taking March, and March leaves the village. March inevitably escapes thanks to Perona, and I called him Johan here because I guess he's still technically Johan, but he's the boy.
Mm-hmm.
Johan's there dead in the water, still acting like a wolf. How did you feel about all of these scenes where he still had his wolf inclinations here? He was still acting like a little wolf, eating food off the floor, playing fetch a little bit.
I understand.
Makes sense.
It makes sense, and I understand what we're going for. I do think it lingered on the whole like fruit bit a little too long.
It was
I
a
don't
lot.
know, like it was just a little too long. Other than that, I thought it was fine. You know what I mean? But I was just like when she started crying, that's when I was just like, just sit up there and eat the fruit. Why are you going down there? And then like being
Yeah.
surprised that he's smacking it out of your hand and you're just standing right in front of him. But I get it. It's for the bit. It's fun. It's silly. It's still being an anime, but so it's bringing a lighthearted balance to it, and I'd rather have that versus it be all, hey, we're sacrificing children and we live in a world where people die because they live in isolated tundras.
We live in a society.
I'm
Sure.
glad that we get a little bit of levity, and it comes through this, as the title says, this rambunctious child.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel about March in this episode? I think it was pretty. She's definitely a child, and
Yeah.
bro, she just kept yapping, and it
She's
was
a
really
yapper.
funny. I like the way that she just kept on yap. What is that?
Is that me?
Yeah, you moving stuff or
No.
okay? He just keeps on. She just keeps on yapping, bro, and it's really funny. I didn't want to like March a whole lot because I usually don't like characters that just keep on talking, or people. But it kind of grew on me the way she's just like just looking up at him and just like talking.
With how everything else is just so stoic and so bleak, and Johan just kind of doesn't give us a lot yet. I think it's necessary that we have a character like March that's just very expressive, because outside of her, the show mostly sticks to its formula and what it's doing. But with whenever March is involved, we get like the more breakaway anime, like that. Yeah, exactly, like that shot right there. Whenever March is around, we get more stuff like this, which I'm totally okay with.
Mhm.
I'm okay with her being the light in the show until Johan, the orb, gains actual personality and consciousness, because right now it's I mean, it's funny to watch the orb develop. Like, I'm not saying that the orb is a bad character, but it doesn't have a lot of character
Yes.
to yet. Exactly. So I feel like pairing it with somebody like March, who's very expressive, I think it's a perfect, like, the concept is perfect. You have a kid who like really wants to grow up and be a parent, but they're being chosen as the sacrifice. But then comes along this like this vessel. Like she says, even at one point you looked like an empty husk laying there, and then you all came together. So this husk of a being, really, for March to kind of leave an impression upon. And by the end of these 4 episodes, we can already see that she starts to break through to it in different ways.
So that makes me think if he was in the wrong hands to begin with, it could have ended up bad.
Yes.
Because it's literally just taking in information. And it just so happens that the boy was a good boy and March is a good girl. And if that was changed at all for some reason, it could have been bad at the start for the orb, or for humanity. Who knows? Because we have an immoral being that in the wrong hands could have been molded very differently at the start, and that could have been
and it
pretty
seems like
catastrophic.
whoever it was that sent the orb down wouldn't like interfere if that was the case.
Yeah.
He seems just more intrigued at like a science experiment type aspect of it, where he just wants to plant the seed and see what happens, taking notes, watching the ant colony grow, so to speak. But he's like, I'm hands off about this.
I'm gonna look into it because I didn't think about it till now. I wonder if this is like some sort of old
Handmaiden's
folklore of
Tale or
some
something.
kind. Yeah, like
I could
something
see that.
that's been passed down through generations, and it's changed forms as well, like the orb. But like, if this is like a story, yeah, this is a
The
story.
orb is actually the
Yeah, the orb is actually the story that's been told throughout time of the orb. Episode 3, a small evolution. What happens in episode 3?
March names the orb Fushi, and the guards left with Perona are attacked by Oniguma, leaving Perona to flee and then pursue March. Hayase takes March with the guards and guides her back to the sacrifice area, while Perona crosses paths with the orb only for it to continue moving forward. Oniguma arrives at the sacrifice location after all is set up, and Fushi finds their way into the path of Oniguma and manages to fight and take him down after turning back into the form of Johan. Hayase plans to take back March, Fushi, and Perona to their home nation, Yanome.
Oof. And the wolf talks, bro.
There you go.
Uh
He talked with the boy too at one point, I think, even, and the boy didn't really react to it, and I thought that was kind of weird.
Wait, what?
When the boy said like, he's like, let's eat the rest of the fish raw, and then he's like, you just have to bite at it, see? And he does it, and then the wolf like bites at the fish head, and then it opens its mouth and it goes, see? And he's just like, and then that's the last that was ever brought up.
I think I missed that.
It's like I can't I totally forgot about it till right now.
Dang.
Yeah.
So we get a name, Fushi or Fu, and you see this huge ass bear, bro. This is their god. This is it. Oniguma. Fuck, man. This bear insane. I'd worship him.
If not
It's
friend,
crazy.
then why friend shaped?
He has so many. That boy wide. He has so many arrows in him. People have tried to kill him, but March gets set up to be sacrificed, and Fushi goes in. Like, it was really crazy. Like, that was another question that they showed and didn't tell. Like, he can go back to his other forms, I guess. So at some point we should see Rock come back, apparently. Maybe. Rock will make an appearance. Definitely. Hello, Claire. Hello. But Fushi is just fighting a god here, I guess, and just keeps getting handled and is like, fuck it, bro. I'm coming back. I can come back. I'm immortal. Insane to protect March. I, with all like the bleak, like, let me, knock you out, child, so that you can be sacrificed here. Seeing the resilience of this immortal being is pretty cool. And them fighting for the side of good and for this child is actually pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And it does give us, a pretty cool fight scene, which, we don't get a lot of action in this show, but it gives us something here where I'm just like, I like what I'm looking at. I'm like, I'm entertained by it. And it just,
yeah.
the way that the orbs form like unspins and like respins itself, it looks really cool, and it's a cool way of doing it other than just like going for the body horror, like turns into amorphous blob and then is something else, and I'm just like,
Mhm.
ugh. But the orb is like and it's like all quick, and it's just super cool. Reminds me of I'm forgetting his name, but one of the My Hero characters.
Oh, I don't know. I
It's
didn't
okay.
finish it. One thing that I noticed in this that has happened before, and I don't know if they really explain what it is. The orb's hair sort of does like this shock ripple effect when something happens. What do you think that represents? Because I
When it
think
gets new stimuli.
oh yeah, definitely new information. Something changed within the orb, and it just
Yeah.
sends.
And this
It's
is like the first time it's like biting into something. Maybe it's the stimuli of like tasting blood, tearing flesh, teeth ripping into something that's alive, the sensation of fight or flight, being put in conflict with something where your life is truly in danger. Because before, all the times that it died was at a like a little fumble, other than the time that Oniguma managed to catch it by
a
surprise.
little fumble. That man's back was like bent backwards
Yeah,
at
well,
one of the
like,
deaths.
but it's like, that how did that happen? He slipped
Yeah,
off of, a high place and,
cliff.
fell. It was never like showing him be like cut down by bandits or eaten by plants or anything like that. So it's just up until now, nothing that's been damaging it has been really from another living thing with malicious intent. But this is the first time it's in like an actual open conflict, so to speak. So
Why do you think he protected her? Do you think like, did he know more than this thing gives me food, or that
probably
this
not.
thing, yeah, or like this thing
I don't
um
know, because it's
is
like,
like the boy because this thing gave me food and is
and
talking
that
at
that too
me?
we did like that's another question, is like, when she was giving it so much food, why did we get the pupil of the boy for a second come
Hmm.
back to purple before it went green again? That's another question where it's just like there's a lot of territory that the show can still explore as it moves forward.
I'm okay with us getting like our own interpretation of it, at least early on while it's still developing.
Yeah.
Like, I'm fine with us like just kind of rolling with it, like giving us some sort of thing and have us come up with our own idea about it, like with the ripple effect of their fur going like, oh, what is that? Like you're saying, I think it's more of this being is attacking me, and I don't, does it feel pain?
Yes, it says that when it turned into the hurt wolf that it felt pain. Like, it's felt the sensation of pain. Maybe it feels pain and it doesn't like register pain in the same way that we do. And that's also what I was
Because it's
going
a
to say, is that
state.
like when it turned into the wolf, it said eventually it was able to kind of just copy the wolf's mannerisms or the wolf's actions or whatever. And as we see, when it like gets a little bit of a little ember on its nose, it like whimpers like a wolf would and falls over. And it just makes me wonder, like, because it turned into a human, does it now have the cognitive capacity that like
Well,
humans have, or does it still have like the cognitive capacity of a wolf? Or from any form, does it have the same like cognitive capacity?
I think because when it turned from rock to wolf, it said it gained consciousness. So I think it changes to what it, like, it ups itself every time he changes to the thing.
Hmm.
and then maybe now he has that human brain
Yeah.
in a form of
When
speaking
he is a
human
human.
brain
Yes.
when he's a human.
So then I would think that like it transformed back into wolf because its human form kept getting like
Killed
killed
or hurt.
by Oniguma, and it so it turns back into the wolf because it
I think mainly because
wants
it's
to try some kills.
faster,
It's
or like
faster, yeah.
can has better senses maybe, and
And
they're
then
like
it,
maybe my better senses will help.
but why does it help her? I probably know, yeah, probably just because the boy fed the wolf and the wolf followed the boy because it did, and now because somebody else is feeding it, it starts to follow her in the same way that the boy taught it to like, and it said see, like now she teaches it to say thank you, so he starts saying thank you.
Which is pretty wild. So he speaks, says thank you for the food. In English, it was a lot worse. I heard it in both because I switched over to Japanese. In English, it's like thank you for the food, and I was like, oh, this sounds like the dog from Full Metal Alchemist. Whenever they form dog and girl, whenever that episode 3, y'all know it. Y'all know it. It sounded like that, and I was like, oh, this gave me bad vibes because I'm looking at this and I'm like, oh no, we're back.
We're
Full Metal
back.
Alchemist. We're back to girl dog form. Fushi acquires more info throughout this whole thing, and we go on. So now they are being taken away because this is some sort of god. Hayase thinks this is something, and they're taking Oniguma back. So what happens in episode 4? A large. Oh, what's up?
Also, just last thing I wanted to say too. Like there, I guess I'm just looking for things to say, but there were just like a few parts in this episode specifically where like I don't know if the framing was just awkward, timing felt awkward, but like the whole idea that like right as she was like bring the gate up and then they start walking that way and then the orb's walking in, like that just felt a little awkward.
What was that?
Yeah,
like, okay, hold on. Let's play it out because I was like, what the fuck? Because they're walking away, the orb guy's walking in, they're looking down, and the orb guy's walking right next to him, and then the gate starts to close, and then she's like, and I'm like, he walked in front of you. Where were y'all? What were y'all doing? She's
like
like,
I thought
what
it
is
was
this?
a little funny, a little awkward, but it like
Yeah.
I was like, whatever, man. Like it gets into the arena, sure.
Yeah.
Like,
It was just, yeah. Thank you for bringing that up because I forgot about it. I was like, what the fuck? I was like, why is she acting that way? He walked right in front of you. What was that about? It was a little awkward framing. I don't know what they meant for that or what they meant for her to feel, but
yes.
Episode 4, a large vessel. What happens in episode 4?
Perona is shown to be dealing with guilt over one of her friends being sacrificed in the past while she hid in safety. The shaman that led the ritual to sacrifice March reveals she is also being held hostage and that those in power are desperate to hold on to such power. Fushi turns back into human form after dipping into some chilly water, and upon entering Yonome, Hayase drugs everyone and throws them into prison. Perona has a plan, however, to return to her tribes with proof of Oniguma's demise to end the ritual sacrifices, and March is chosen to care after Oniguma as Perona obtains a disguise to begin their escape attempt.
Ooh, baby, it's an escape here.
We're leaving.
We get the flashback of Perona, who had someone she loves or really likes. I don't know if it was like it was a friend, I suppose, not a family member that got sent for the ritual. And the Yaname people want this group's land, so they do the ritual to keep them under their thumb a little bit. So, how do you feel in this instance where this shaman person that we saw was like, yeah, that's all fake. Everything here is fake. Everything your little tribe thinks is all fake. And I'm like, it sucks for me as a viewer. And I'm like, oh, everything we just saw was like, this isn't for a thing. But then it makes me like, that sucks for them. Like,
Yeah.
like it makes me feel empathy for them. Like, oh
Yes.
shit, that sucks.
I feel bad for the villagers, but I don't necessarily feel bad as a viewer because it's like, for me, it's like, oh, there's like something bigger going on.
Sure.
Because me as the viewer, I don't know. I just feel like, obviously, if they're doing some sort of a ritual sacrifice for children, like, it's trying to paint it with a very bad sense of morality. Like, this is, this isn't
Sure.
good. But it's like, we see these tribal people, so we feel like it's I'm forgetting the name of the term, but the theory where people in caves, if you show them shadows using light on the walls, for them that's reality. They don't know that there are
Hmm.
people that are making puppets with the shadows. Or you could go into the Alice in Wonderland, the person who's actually behind the cape making the big head talk, behind the curtain making the big head talk.
Alice in
Did I say
Wonderland.
Alice in Wonderland? Wizard of Oz. Sorry. I'm going too fast for my own good.
Sure.
But just that reveal for me, it equates itself to that, where it's just like
Okay.
you have these people who this is what they know, and then as we go into Yanome, and March wants to send the letter, and the guy's like, the lady whispers like nobody knows how to read or write, and then she's showing them
And that show
he shows the
that's
picture of the regions, and he's like, see, there's all these different villages, and then Perona's like, what map is that? And then she snatches it and rolls it up and
that
changes the
was
topic. It's all like, you feel the bigger conspiracy growing right in front of you. And for me, it's like, it's intriguing. It's like, okay, we have this story about the orb and we're still keeping the orb involved, but now like there's such a different way that this story can tread into as we get introduced into Yaname.
that scene. I thought it was going to be a nothing scene, like her just walking around, like whatever. Send a letter to my parents, and it's like, no, we're supposed to pretend we're still alive. And I thought that's just what it was going to convey. It conveyed so much in such a little bit of time, and I loved it. I love that they were like, oh, well, nobody in your village can read or write. It's like, okay, that's one step that they're pushing down on them. And they're like, well, here's all the villages, which one she's in. They're like, huh? There's more? There's
Yep.
people. And they're like, that's another one that's just like, you're way down here and we're
Yeah,
just keeping our thumb over you. And I was like, that's so
exactly.
good. And they did it by showing us how far below those
And
people
not
are.
just not Perona, the other one,
ISA?
Hayase, going like around and like putting those people down for being villagers or like talking smack about them. Like, she does everything to just totally put on a front that she's this, totally about the greater good, so to speak. But it's like she knows what's going on. She's trying to keep the truth from being revealed to these people. And as soon as she like, Oniguma's killed, and you think like, oh great, the problem solved. Like, no, like nobody, that was the problem. We needed to make sacrifice to Oniguma. But she's like, nah, that's not good enough. Like, we're about
So
to gather them up. We need to take them back. And right there, when she's like, we're gather them up and we're taking them back to Yaname, I'm like, yes, like, what's going on? I want to know what's going on.
so that also brings a question. We don't have much time, but like there's so many really cool questions. Like what they seemed super surprised and they even questioned, is that Oniguma? And for all intents and purposes, it's a huge bear. Like it's an abnormally large bear that was grown. I don't know why, but like when they set this into place, it just so happened that there's a big bear there, right? Like when they set this into place, they were just like, "Oh yeah, Oniguma, we need to take one of your kids, and this is helping you. This is what you all need to stay protected." And all the villagers like, "Okay, thank you so much for this. Let me give you our crops and stuff."
And she
But
even sorry, go ahead.
no, but do you think they ever had an actual like Oniguma,
No,
or
that's
was
what I was
that
about to say. That's
something?
what I was about to say. In her whole Payase's whole explanation, she even says like, "We'll go. We're gonna tie you up. We're gonna put you at the sacrifice location, and we're gonna leave before Oniguma even shows up." And right there, I was like, "Nah, How do you know what's happening? You don't even know that the sacrifice is going to Oniguma. You go up there a year later to clean
To
up the
bring the
body.
bones.
Anything could have killed them.
Yeah.
There could have been a mountain lion that wandered in and killed them. What are you talking about? We leave before Oniguma shows up. That's where I'm just like, this is all totally bunk, man.
It's a ruse. It's a lie. What are you talking about?
I will say, when it shows the bear that we're to believe is Oniguma, I am like, God damn, that's an abnormally large, freakishly large bear, I would say. Like, I am.
Is that? Because all the guards were like, wait, is that Oniguma? We've been.
Yeah. And that's where, like, again, that's where the guards that initially encountered Oniguma that were guarding Perona, they like one of them starts shooting arrows at it, and I'm just in the back of my head, I'm like, if you knew that was Oniguma, why are you shooting arrows at it? You know you can't kill it. Run. You run. You tell them to run. No, you run. Why them? Why are you shooting arrows that aren't gonna work? So again, there's a few silly things that happens, but it's to do the whole conveying through things happening and not through just saying it, and I appreciate the attempt at that.
Sure. Another really interesting question that I had in my head while I'm watching this. So during this time around there, we have Fushi, who and everybody else get a change of clothes, right? But when Fushi becomes a human, he's human with the clothes on him, because when he changes back to wolf, he's wolf with fur, not with clothes on. So whenever he turned into human, he had the clothes on, but then he changes clothes. So are the clothes a part of him? Because is that his body too? Because he clearly changed into something different here as the human. So I'm just like,
I think like as he's turning into the human form, he's like recreating everything that was present with the human at the time, I guess. So it's just
so he can create matter.
Yes. Or turn existing matter into something else. Meaning he can change like his organic forms into an organic form and vice versa.
It was just something that happened. They just wanted to give him new clothes, and I looked way too into it. I was like, wait, he changed clothes though? Hold on.
Not a mountain out of a molehill.
Yeah, that's the littlest things. I'm just like, what? So we get Fu, who is captured, and they're like, this is an immoral being. Here we are, and they send people out to kill him, and he copies their ability, and he makes a spear.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, this is just next level. Like, this thing could be so dangerous. My mind instantly went to there.
Yeah,
like he just created a spear in his hand and then stabbed a guy because he saw him being stabbed before.
Yeah. And then, but like, again, so like in that moment when he does that, and then the guy goes like, ow, it hurts. He has like a little head hinge. And then he starts on repeat. It hurts.
It hurts. It hurts.
It hurts. He die.
Which is like,
he die.
Yeah.
He turns back into the wolf. He die.
Which is very unsettling. There's just so many little things about the show that's like super unsettling, and like some scenes where I'm like, oh wow, and it's just interesting. I don't know what it is. Like, I don't know what this show is, because it's giving me a little bit of a lot.
It's got an eeriness to it, I'd say.
There is a lot of eerie to it. Hayase wants
like,
to use
for me, like this feeling that something's just going to go wrong at all times.
Hayase wants to use Fu for evil. They're kind of torturing Fu a little bit. Perona's plan, like you were saying, is to show her tribe that Oniguma is dead, that we don't have to do the ritual anymore. And there was this really weird scene. I forgot where it was. It was around this time, but there was a weird scene where it goes black, and then somebody says the vessel opened.
Oh yeah, that's right.
What was that? What does that mean? Who
was like March was looking after Oniguma. Fu was like in wolf form near Oniguma, and Perona was like up on the railing, like mopping, and they all like stopped and like looked at each other. And then that's when that happened, I think.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that means.
Kellen says, I think he was mimicking Oniguma when he says it hurts because of all the arrows. I think one of the guys says it hurts, didn't he? And
Yes.
then thank you,
One
and
the guy
March
that he
freaks him
stabbed
out.
with the spear.
Yeah, so he's heard all of these things. Like March is so confusing. Like March has said thank you, so he mimicked thank you. The guy that got stabbed said it hurts, and then he mimicked it hurts.
But he also like had a headache tinge. There's like a ding like a thing in his
Mhm,
head when the guy said it hurts. Or
mhm,
when he stabbed the guy. It was either upon stabbing the guy or the guy saying it hurts. It hurts. It was one or the other. I can't remember when
mhm.
exactly it happened, but right then in that moment. And then he started.
But he was saying, I think I know what you mean, where he was saying it because Oniguma has all those little things all
Oh,
over him.
yeah. Maybe that's
Um,
why, because yeah, he started digging the hole outside of the cell into Oniguma's cell or whatever, which was like right next to each other, I guess.
yeah.
But whatever. So yeah, I maybe that's why he did that, because he feels Oniguma's pain. Maybe that's the vessel opening.
Empathy is the thing that we were looking for here this
The
whole
real
time.
to your eternity was the empathy we made along the way.
They're escaping, they're leaving. Matt, how do you feel after 4 episodes? What are you thinking? What do you think about this anime so far?
I mean, I enjoy the setup. If this has all been set up for the greater story that's about to happen, like I'm totally on board. If it's gonna remain in this kind of like air of the orb just keeps moving forward, so to speak, and encounters new people and new places, because that's what the boy wanted. He wanted to like go to new places and experience new things, talk to new
Oh,
people. So if that's what all this is like kind of a catalyst for, then I'm also okay with that. With this being just like the first stop on this adventure of different people and experiences that we have yet to see, which if the opening is anything to go off of, there is still a lot to see, because with this anime, we checked it out and we saw that the first season goes well past 12 episodes. So the we're doing 13 on this one, but I think it goes out to 20 on the first season alone or something like that.
so
So
we are
I'm
not going
sure
to get.
there's a lot to see. There's a lot of story to be told. And I mean, this has so far been like a great engaging ride so far, with a very, thought-provoking at times premise about it. How do you feel so far?
Yeah, I think I was hooked on episode 1 because, I mean, even if they shoveled shit in episode 2, 3, and 4, it would be very difficult for me to be like, I'm done with it. Episode 1 was just so good to me, like such a good introduction to a story, and that's kind of what I like. I like when some of my favorite shows have done this, where there's like just a bottle episode and it's just maybe not even of the characters that are the main show, really.
Oh,
Like Doctor
easy,
Who.
easy. Avatar: The Last Airbender, Zuko Alone, season 2.
Okay.
Got you.
Yeah, I'll watch that, I guess. Doctor Who has done some of them. I know what's the one? Oh, Sandman. Sandman episode 6 or something. Sandman's not in it at all. And it's just these characters we meet, and they build a thing and they make you feel a thing. I'm like, this is the best episode of the show. And the guy wasn't even in it. And like this episode 1 gave me those vibes where I'm just like, these are two characters we just met and here we are. And it's insane. And I really loved episode 1. The story is interesting. I do want to focus more on the orb, but I like you're saying, if it is the first stop on many, I'm okay with that, because I think this little confined story only has so much to tell. And then after that, I would like the orb to be like, all right, see ya, gotta go, gotta keep
Yeah,
walking or whatever. I'm like, okay,
exactly.
if they do that, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with him meeting new characters, going through life, picking up new emotions along the way. Would you have watched past episode 3? because that's usually where they say,
yeah. I mean, I feel like I'm in the same boat with you, where past episode 1, like, I mean, obviously I still want it to be entertaining. I still want it to be engaging for me past that, but it gave a very strong first step. And I feel like because of that, the small, like, little things that I've mentioned along the way haven't really taken me aback so far, because the first episode was so impactful, and it's been able to follow up in reasonable ways that are keeping me invested for sure.
Yeah, I definitely think I would have gone on if I'd watched this in the wild alone. But yeah, that's the first 4 episodes of To Your Eternity. Next week, we're gonna watch 5 episodes. So watch 5 episodes this week, 5 through 9, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 5 through 9 this week, so we can get through like the first couple arcs. We're gonna finish on episode 13, kind of like how we did last time. But watch episode 5 through 9 of To Your Eternity next week, by next Wednesday, and we'll be here live to talk about it. Matt, where can they find you on the internet?
You can find me on my socials at it's Matt_Galley. If you'd like, you can follow me on my YouTube at Matt_Galley, where I plan to post in the future. Jules, when we're not here talking about the wonderful anime we're watching, where can the people find you?
At JulesTheHuman, at JULES the Human on all social media. You can watch the podcast on YouTube, and linked in the YouTube title is where we put up the VODs now. Like I edit them a little bit, and that's where you can see the long form if you don't watch it live or anything. You go watch and subscribe to that channel. You could also watch this podcast on Spotify. We have the video version up on Spotify. And you can do that when you're in the car, when you're on the way to work, whatever. You can listen to us, listen to past episodes, all the anime we've watched already. And yeah, find us on the internet, and find us next week here talking about To Your Eternity, episode 5 through 9. I'm excited. I'm excited to keep watching. But we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.